I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I'm delighted to introduce you to a very talented author. His name is Ari V. Koshark, and he has written a remarkable book. It's called Chronix 1. It is a gripping tale set in a war-torn world where ancient magic collides with raw power and revenge. The story, weaving
Yeah.
through the life of Viktor Koshark, dives deep into the complexities of loyalty, power, and the quest for vengeance, promising to keep readers on the edge of their seats and turning those pages fast. It is that good.
Yeah.
We're delighted to have Ari join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to show their support for writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his remarkable book. The links are below this interview. Ari, great to see you here on Spotlight.
Thank you. So it took a long time to get everything done. I believe I actually have some months memorized in my head. It was around November of 2021 was when I started writing it, and I finished it in March, February of 2022 area. We didn't actually start publishing it until like summer of 2022. We only actually got it out recently in summer of this year. So it's been a very long process, but I am very glad I could be on here today and help get it out there so I can get
Get
more
the word
sales and
out there,
everything.
spread the word.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're glad you're here too. Let's give the folks at home the big picture. Briefly tell them what the story of Chronix 1 is about.
Oh boy. That's okay. So very briefly, I'll have to simplify it here. Takes place in the past timeline wise, but technology's in the future. And 1800s, you're set in a different solar system, different planet and everything. The main protagonist or character is Viktor Koshark, and he's on the planet of Ortray, which is currently experiencing a very long siege between the Gorasnian forces, which he is a part of, and then the Promithean forces, which is he's against. It is a battle between two malevolent dictatorships that do not have any sense of freedom or individual thinking at all. And it also will, throughout the story, ancient powers will come in, as you previously described, and many different sci-fi technologies and steampunk other stuff aspects will be introduced throughout the story too.
Wonderful. It's quite a unique world you have created. Tell
It
us
is.
why you entitled it Chronix 1.
Well, actually, what's funny is that Chronix one is that I was just saying one for as in this is the first one in a long series that I plan on doing. The actual full title of it is The Life Foundation Universe, which you could kind of see if you look at my name in the Zoom call.
Hmm.
It's Life Foundation, right?
Yep.
Now, um, the universe I've come up with is very expansive that we would have nowhere near enough time to actually fully explain the whole thing.
Hmm.
But Chronix 1 would be the first one in a series, which is Chronix is just a label there, and the number is just which one have I released yet. And then, but they don't go in chronological order, just
Yeah.
release order. And then there's the subtitle Victor Koshark's Journey.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about Victor. He's an intriguing character.
So around the time of when the story starts, he is 20. So he's very young, right? But he is a Gorasnian conscript on the front lines of Ortray. He was, of course, indoctrinated as a young child to become a nationalistic and prideful and patriotic soldier, of which he is in the beginning of the book. But as it goes on, as he's experienced more and more horrors of war, and he begins to see the ugly truth of what Gorasnia really is like, he begins to seriously doubt himself, and his whole perspective of life has changed.
Mm.
This also comes with the introduction of ancient magic and other stuff, as the Grassian government used to just straight up say that was false, that never existed.
Are there parallels between the world Victor lives in and our world?
Yes, somewhat. It is a fictional world, so it is grounded somewhat in reality, of course. But I'd say that mainly the Gorasnians, right? Also, if you look at their design and you know your history, they've been obviously inspired based off of, well, the Soviets during the Cold War and World War II. And then the Life Foundation, based on their ideology and everything, they are more closely resembling. It's a very weird mixture that I've made between three different ideologies or evil empires. Basically, you have um, Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, and then imagine the Teutonic Knights from the medieval era. We're talking religious zealots, everything like that.
Wonderful, wonderful, great inspiration. Let's talk about cinematic and literary inspiration for you. Are you inspired by Star Wars? Are you
Star Wars
inspired?
definitely a bit. Star Wars was definitely a bit in there, but there's also many, many other things that it would take a while to name.
Yeah,
Uh, this includes, movies, shows, video games, etc.
yeah.
But
Yeah, it's an immersive world you've created, and it actually does remind me of a video game in part or a graphic novel. That's for sure. Have you envisioned this perhaps as a movie, a series, or even a video game?
yes, a lot, a
Yeah.
lot. Like I want it to be out there
Which
because
would you want it to be first, a video game or a movie?
I'm thinking it might fit the video game area a bit more, simply because there's so many different variables and everything. And plus, since I've already made it pretty immersive, if it was a video game, players would be very immersed in it. And also with all the different options, I think it would be one of the best video games ever made if it is made correctly and done
Yeah.
well.
Absolutely. Well, they'd have to get the author there as a tech advisor to make sure
Exactly.
all of the
Yeah.
platforms, all of the levels, all of the characters, all of the
Yep.
worlds are
That same thing
there.
goes for shows and movies and everything. And of course, I would have to get a cut, but
Yep.
I don't, as long as I'm making a good amount of money from it, then I'm satisfied with, and they're doing well on it. Because how do I put it? I don't want my work to be a corporate plastic copy like many things like what Hollywood does nowadays or
Right.
whatever, or like what big gaming corporations will do nowadays. I want it to be something that's good quality. Now, I do still want to make profit off of it, of course, but I also want it to be good quality that is original and is not basically ruined by many of the things that ruins most modern day movies and video games.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. You don't want it to be cookie cutter. You have created a unique world, like I said. You want to keep that unique quality
Exactly.
in your work, whether it's a film, whether it's a series, whether it's a series of film, and of course, a video game as well. Tell us a little bit about the significance of the Promethean invasion in your story.
Well, the Prometheans, well, there is some backstory that isn't actually covered in the novel, right? But
Mhm.
the Prometheans were, how do I put it? Like I said, they're mainly inspired based off Nazi Germany and then also Imperial Japan due to their brutal tactics, and then the Teutonic Knights due to their religious zealotry. But mainly, it is Nazi Germany due to the science aspect of them, the horrific experiments that they do, and then also the backstory I've made to them. If you know your history well, you would know that the reason why Hitler came to power in Germany in the 1930s was because of German hatred of the Treaty of Versailles that absolutely ruined the German economy and everything. Well, I don't know if it says here explicitly in the novel, but the war that Victor is fighting in is actually the second Gorasni Promethean war, not the first, the second. In the first war, which happened around 20 to 30 years ago from the first book here, the Gorasnians won this war and absolutely humiliated the kingdom of Promethea at the time, which was just a monarchy, wasn't horrific dictatorship, and a certain political party called the Life, the Life of the People's Foundation, or Life Foundation for short, took over Promethea, which is where Life Foundation comes from.
Mhm.
And once they took over, it then, as they began to build up and get more zealous and get more belligerent, war eventually broke again. Kind
It's
of like,
interesting. You've created such a world. I can not only see sequels, of course, because
yeah,
the world
but
continues, but I can see prequels as well, where you establish how everything came about.
exactly.
So
It's
do you
kind of
think your
like
next book would be a prequel or do you think it would be a sequel?
what's funny is, like I said, this is a huge universe and expansive, everything. So there's this huge timeline. My second novel isn't actually a sequel or a prequel. It's a starting of a new story,
Hmm,
but I will definitely come back to this later in another novel.
gotcha. And will some of the characters be carried over into this second novel?
Well, second novel, like I said, is a new story. There may
New
be
story
references
completely.
to them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the second novel, the Life Foundation is still there.
Hmm.
So, you of course have that reference to that empire. So
Right.
while some novels won't be like direct connections, there will still be one thing at least connecting them all, as long as they have the Life Foundation title on them and they're connected to this universe. Because in the time that I've been writing, the Life Foundation universe was my first and my biggest project that I've made, right?
Hmm.
But after that, I expanded my views a bit and I've actually made several other universes. I've always been a very creative person. You know,
Mm.
like I will see something and just immediately like think about something like that and just create it into this whole huge thing.
Wonderful. Was there anything particularly challenging about writing Chronix 1? Was there something that was like difficult to resolve or write or describe?
Let's see. Difficult part was at the time my mom wanted to keep it more PG, and I was like, well, keeping it PG isn't what's gonna get the shock value and sales and everything that I want to show,
Mm.
right? Because if you're more blunt with it, if you show the actual horrors of war, which I believe I did decently well in my novel, I think if you do show that, more people will be into buying it. Because what I've noticed is a lot of people nowadays, they're tired of this whole thing where, like, I'm not going to say any names, but many corporations, many other media outlets or whatever, they will censor the truth about certain things, or they'll censor certain, fictional things, and they'll just try to like sugarcoat it. And many people I've noticed just don't like that, and I
Right.
don't like that either. So
Yeah, they want it raw, they want it gritty, they want it real, they want it the way it was created.
yes, they want
Um,
to be immersed and they
yeah,
want it to be realistic.
exactly. Exactly. And tell us a little bit about what message you hope readers take away from the book.
There are many, many, many different messages that you could take from this novel. One of them is do not blindly follow any movement or orders or anything, as both of the sides in the conflict, like the Promitheans and Gorasnians, both of them are evil. There's not a good guy, right? Both of the empires, like I said, are malevolent dictatorships with countless human rights violations.
Mm.
So, and many of their soldiers are just indoctrinated, from pretty much childhood to blindly follow their orders, and that's why many of these atrocities happen. So, one of these you could take from it is don't follow the crowd, be yourself, be independent, do not, think you're for yourself basically. Another one could be it could also be a warning sign against revenge. Now, I'm not going to get into the story because I'd rather not spoil it,
Hmm.
but many, many things do happen as a result of the revenge quest that Victor goes on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it compelling. And that's the driving force of the novel, at least in part. Ari Koshark has written an amazing book. It is called Chronix 1. It is a gripping tale set in a war-torn world where ancient magic collides with raw power and revenge. It is a great story. He has created a great and memorable character in the hero, Viktor Koshark. Before we leave today, Ari, is there anything you want to let the folks at home know?
Well, let me think about this here. I did spend a lot of time into this, so I would like it if you went and bought it, of course, right?
Hmm.
But do know that I also have many other ideas for not only this universe but my other universes. And remember that I do not release in chronological order, and some will be less connected than others. And not all the time will I be dedicated to the Life Foundation universe, as I have many other projects, of course, that
Yeah.
I have been thinking about and working on.
It's interesting that you don't follow a chronological order. It actually kind of makes it more interesting for the reader because, like I said, it could be a sequel or it could be a prequel or it could be a gapping, a
Or,
bridging together different
or it could
books
just
that
be
you've written.
something entirely different that will eventually later in the future be connected.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Hollywood, if you're listening, Ari Koshara has a great story for you, a lot of great stories for you, as a matter of fact. He, of course, would need to have a lot of input in putting these together so they stay true to the original novel. Ari, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
You're welcome.
Great having you. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.